Welcome to the Art of Pivoting Your Life, Breaking Free and Crafting Change. I'm Michelle Carbone, a clinical hypnotherapist and intuitive coach. You can call in for guidance and coaching on making a pivot in your own life. The number to call is 516-623-1240. As always, we have plenty to talk about if nobody calls in, but we'd love to hear from you too.
Today we do have our first caller, and my show's longer today. So today I'm going to have two guests on, and our first guest is on the line. So hello there, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing pretty good. So tell me, what would you like guidance on today? What's your current struggle?
My current struggle is finding my authentic self, I think. I
That's
think
part of it, right? Like, oh, that
that's that's part of it. Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Um,
that's such an important thing. So I'm so happy that you want to try to like work on that today. Tell me what you,
okay. Yeah, I don't know where. Go
go,
ahead.
no, you go ahead.
Well, I don't know. I've got a lot going on in my head. I don't really know a little bit of background. I have been married to someone on the autism spectrum
Mm-hmm.
for 32 years. I do know that I do suffer from Cassandra syndrome, and I don't know how many people have heard about that, but
I've
I
talked a little bit about it on the show,
I
but
was
yeah, tell me your experience right now.
currently over the years I have left him 3 times. The first 2 times I only left for a month. Last year I left for 7 months um, because I always thought about leaving. And I thought, well, when my kids are older, it would be a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so wrong. When I left, I have 4 boys. They're all adults, and they all stopped talking to me,
Ugh.
which ripped my heart out.
Oh yeah.
So it was really difficult. I could deal with not living with my husband anymore because we're so disconnected anyway. But my kids, it was really difficult, and my blood pressure started to go up. And I know I have a lot of childhood trauma. I have a lot of abandonment issues, and I think I have a little bit of PTSD from being alone, when I was younger. So I think that had something to do with me going back to, and I know I'm very codependent. I'm trying to get help with that. But I'm just feeling kind of stuck with, I wish people would understand um, what it's like to be with someone that long that, and we only found out like about 7 years ago. He was 55 when we found out.
Oh wow. Yeah. So
Um, and
almost
and
like
and it
mine.
was the third. Oh, really?
Yeah, he was
Wow.
right around 50 when we figured it out. And just because a girlfriend of mine is a therapist and was like, do you think he's on the spectrum? And I was like, maybe.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, pretty sure. So, yeah, I think we're seeing a lot more of those late diagnoses right now because
Right.
people are figuring out like, well, there's a disconnect, right? Like you have trouble connecting with him and he has trouble connecting with you.
Yes. Yes. And it's so bizarre to me, but to him, it's nothing is bizarre. I mean, even when we got back together, I said, don't you think it's weird that, I mean, I filed for divorce, and I was so close to, we were just waiting on the court date for the divorce. I said, don't you think it's weird that we almost divorced and we never even talked about anything? And he said no. And I thought, well, that's just typical. That's, that is so typical. He doesn't, I don't know what it is.
Well,
It's
what
a
I've
crazy thing.
found, most men on the autism spectrum tend to be an avoidant attachment style. And
Right.
so, being
Definitely. Yeah.
vulnerable, knowing what their feelings are, being able to express how they feel, being able to have those difficult conversations that couples need to have. I mean, you can't just sweep everything under the rug for 30 years and expect things to be fabulous, right? Like, but they're
Right.
they're really good at you know, ignoring that, they're because of how their brain's functioning. It's easy to fall into that place where they just don't notice. And I always tell people this, that when, since I work with Cassandras all the time, um, you didn't do anything wrong. It's not you.
Right. And I'm learning that. I think what hurts is my kids. Like I begged them. I said, just listen to some podcast, go on YouTube, look for Cassandra syndrome and you'll understand, my side.
Yeah.
And it's like they don't even want to. Like they don't, even though, we've been on separate ends of the house for over 10 years now, my husband and and I mean, the kids see that. So I'm not modeling a good marriage to my children, and I haven't been for 10 years, but yet he still is the good guy. And I don't, which he is a good guy.
Yeah,
He's not a bad guy.
it's really tough when um you're with some, because I was definitely, as you know, in a very similar position. My husband was a really nice guy, took good care of me.
Hmm.
He would tell other people how much he loved me and how proud of me he was. He never told me, I mean, he would say, I love you, but, I never received a lot of appreciation or, anything, but he wasn't a bad person. He tried to be a good person for the most
Hmm.
part. But when you're not able to have that intimacy that we want in our marriage and to connect deeply and have that, you know, true, deep intimacy, not just physical, but the mental intimacy, right? Like being able to
Right.
go to him when you're struggling and say, hey, I'm struggling, and have them listen and not get into fix it mode. Because that's what my ex would do, just constantly try. And I'm like, I don't need you to fix anything. This is my problem. I just need you to listen to me and just be supportive, right? Like, I don't know if was that kind
Right.
of similar with yours?
Yes. Um, yeah, I mean, there's no emotional support at all. Like when my mom passed a couple years ago, I mean, there's just nothing. There's no, I'm sorry, can I give you a hug? How you feeling? It's never asking how I'm doing, like
Yeah.
how I'm really doing. It's all superficial talk. It's all just necessary talk, like about the weather or whatever.
Yeah. Very surface.
It's never in, right, right. Um, so, I mean, I'm 60 years old, so I'm like, I've been focusing on this for 30 some years, and I want to get my focus somewhere else, and
Mm.
I don't know where to put it. I just,
Yeah.
it's, if that makes sense,
Yeah. You're kind of feeling like stuck, right?
yeah, like I wish I had a passion because I have like a lot of time on my hands. I mean, I work, but it's my job is very, very boring.
Mm,
So I can sit there and watch TV all day if I want, but I just have to be there.
right.
So
And watching TV all
I
day
have all
sounds
this
great, people,
time.
but it's not.
I know, yes, Yes, definitely. I'm not used to it, but I have all this time that I feel like I should be doing something for me or taking a class or something, and I don't feel like there's anything I can get excited about. And I don't, I
Yeah,
don't know
well,
what, I mean, I don't,
what kind of thoughts come up when you think I want to find something for myself?
um, I don't know. I've had a vision of just having my own space,
Hmm.
like even if it's a small trailer or something, just my own space.
Is that
Because
a
I've never had that, and I've never been able to support myself financially
is
that way.
having
You
that
know,
possible on like wherever you're living right now?
um, I would have to look around.
Hmm.
Um,
And are
yeah,
you in
I don't
separate
know. I would
bedrooms
have to
right
look
now?
around. Oh yes, we have been for over 10 years.
So how is your bedroom?
It's it's small.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah,
Is there anything
and
you
that
could do to like enhance your bedroom to make it feel more, happy? Like
I am
decorating?
trying to do that. I started a little bit to do that. So
Because that can be,
yeah, because it is my space.
oh, go ahead.
No, it is my space. It's just to me, it's really bizarre to be living with like a roommate, but he's your husband. So it's like I can't. I feel like I can't date because we're married, but we're not connected, and it's just so. I mean, I had a friend of mine just hold my hand. This was like last year when we were separated. And when he held my hand, I was over the moon. I mean, that's all it was. He just grabbed my hand and held my hand. And it was so different. I have never, had that affection and stuff. So it's really sad when I say it out loud, but
Uh, and
but
so many women struggle with that. Well, and men too, I'm sure. We as humans, we need touch, right? Like for
right,
maintenance of our like nervous system and regulation, we need like 8 hugs a day. And for growth, we need 12. And I don't know anybody who's getting 12 hugs a day unless, they're
right,
in a happy family place, right? Like living with lots of people and like making the time and effort to hug, right? Like we haven't emphasized that as something valuable in this society really, right? So like people don't prioritize it.
right. Yeah,
Do you have
yeah.
any girlfriends or even guy friends?
Oh yeah, I have friends. Yeah, yeah, because I go to two different 12-step programs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's my saving grace, really. It's,
Yes,
because I
building that
do feel
network of
connected.
friends.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a gift to me that I do feel connected
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, which is great because sometimes, if you have decided that you are staying in the marriage because you want your sons to talk to you, which is a valid thing. Like there's nothing wrong with making that decision. Obviously, your kids are important to you and you want them in your life, right? And if they're not going
Right.
to be understanding, then it's like you've decided to make that sacrifice. Um, can you spend more time in spaces that make you happy, like with friends or even making new friends.
Yes, I would have to make the effort to do that, which I can do. I
Yeah.
mean,
How
it
does,
would take
but when you
some.
think about that, making the effort, how does that feel?
Feels good, really.
Okay, good. Yeah, lean into that,
I mean,
right? Because our minds will motivate us to do things that give us pleasure. So if that thought of connecting with other people and making new friends and going out and doing things makes you happy and feels good, then think about it more and then start taking those steps, right? And you don't have to take big steps. You can say, what's the smallest step I could take right now? Or maybe I join a meetup group and see what they're doing.
yeah, I actually had a friend of mine tell me that. I've never been on a meetup thing, but she'll have to show me about that because I
Yeah.
don't know anything
Yeah,
about
right.
that.
Because one of my clients has met a lot of great people through a meetup group and she's loving it. And it's like really, it's great. They do all kinds of different things. And it's about finding the right one as well. So like, if you're not into going out dancing and drinking beer, then obviously you don't want to join one that focuses on that,
Hmm.
right?
Right, right,
But, and be
right.
willing to be curious and be like come at it from a place of like I can go once and I can decide I this one isn't for me and I can try a different one, right? Like don't see it as a long-term commitment because sometimes that can be intimidating, if that makes sense.
Right.
And sometimes we can get
Oh,
in our
yeah.
own way because we're like, oh, if I go to this group and I don't like it, then oh, I might, but I have to keep going, or it's like our minds like to just mess with us sometimes.
Mhm.
So if we can take that step and just go, okay, hey, I'm just going to try this one time. Let me see how it goes. Let me be, and I'm going to be brave and like go up to people and talk to them. And you could like come up with a challenge of like, I'm going to go up to one person or two people or whatever feels comfortable or even what doesn't feel comfortable. Sometimes we have to push past our boundaries of comfort in order to experience a little bit of growth. So, like, how
Yeah.
many people feels comfortable to you to approach?
How many?
Yeah, like one, two.
Um, one.
Okay, perfect.
Probably one.
So you could just go, okay, I'm gonna go. I challenge myself to to go up to one person, to approach one person and start a conversation and say, hey, here's who I am. Nice to meet you. Let's chat for a second. How does that feel?
Okay. Very awkward.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get a little nervous thinking about it.
Yeah. Maybe sometimes we can reframe how we're feeling, right? Because saying we feel nervous about something kind of indicates maybe there's some fear. And certainly there would be, right? It's something you haven't done. But maybe you can also call it excitement,
Yeah.
and
Anything out of my comfort zone.
right? And
Yeah. Excitement sounds better.
this is how you start finding your authentic self is by putting yourself out there, trying some different things. Because sometimes, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I have pushed myself to do something and I had to really, work myself up to it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. This is going to be terrible. They're not going to like me, or, all these fun thoughts from the ego come in that are, not positive. And then you do the thing and you're like, oh my gosh, that wasn't so bad at all. That was actually fun. Like my mind was just totally messing with me. And if you can push past it, it's like after that first time you experience it, you're like, oh, wow, that wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. So I'm going to do it again,
Right.
right? So I
Yeah, I've
think,
never been very adventurous, but yeah, I
but you
like
were
the word
also in a
excitement.
marriage where you didn't
Exciting.
have connection, right?
Right.
And you had
Right.
4 boys. So you're putting them first while they're growing up. And you didn't have, I mean, so many moms run into this. I mean, I'm sure some dads do too, but like, let's face it, as women, for the majority, we're expected to just take care of our kids and, you know, put them first and sacrifice ourselves and be martyrs. And that's a bunch of BS. We don't need to do that, but
Hmm.
we've been conditioned to. And so it's totally normal that that's happens. Like all these moms lose themselves in their families, and then when their kids grow up and move away, they don't know what to do with themselves and they don't know who they are. So part of discovering who you are is just, hey, let me learn, like, what do I even like? Let me try an art class. Let me try a dancing class. Let me get a friend to go bowling or play pool, or let me try darts, or whatever, right? Like let me try kayaking, or let me get out there and like, what have I always thought, maybe that's fun, and I've never tried it because other parts of my life took my time away.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I don't even know. I mean, I'm so codependent, and I'm so used to, everybody else's needs come first, and I don't know what I like anymore. And
Yeah.
and I'm getting old, so I got to figure it out quick.
60's not old, girl. um can you give yourself permission to put yourself first?
I can try. It's really difficult, but
I
I can
know
try.
it is, but try, even every day, write it on your mirror. One of my mentors is Marissa Peer, and she loves the, writing on your mirror thing. And you should see my mirror. It's got so much stuff on it. Um, but writing on your mirror, like, I am enough and I'm allowed to come first.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, because you are enough, just as you are. Just because you've had childhood trauma, just because you married someone because of that trauma who you can't connect with, doesn't mean you're not worthy.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Because you are. You're a wonderful person. And you're worthy to be happy and to find that happiness. And if it means that you have to find happiness while you're living in this situation because of your boys, because they're not understanding, they're going to stop talking to you, which is very sad. But, I realize that kind of stuff happens all the time. It's like creating the situation in the best way you can for yourself. And part of that is going, you know what? I deserve to be happy and I deserve to chase happiness.
Right. Okay.
How does that feel?
Um, Kind of selfish.
Oh, yeah. Right? Because, and you know why, right? I
Because
can
then
tell
I
you why
won't
it
be
feels
there
selfish.
for
It's just that programming.
why.
We're programming from society. We're constantly
Oh,
fed information that, especially, in your generation, right? Like, you grow up and you get
right.
married and you have children and you take care of them and they come first, and your husband comes first and your kids come first, and every single other person in your life comes before you. You come last. That's what we're programmed as women with. And it's bull. It is not true. It's like a plane. You know, when you're on a plane, what do they say? They say, put your mask on first before you help someone else. And the reason for that is like if you can't breathe, how are you supposed to help someone else? And if your cup isn't full, how are you supposed to be a great grandma when you start being a grandma, right? Or if you already are one,
Mhm.
right? Like, how are you supposed to love other people when you're just drained and sad?
Yes, and I feel like that's really not who I am. I mean, I feel like I've become drained and sad,
Yeah.
but
But
that's not me.
you're a
That's,
wonderful, vibrant woman, right? Like you've got this amazing woman inside of you who's just waiting to be released. And part of this is like allowing her to come out and saying, yeah, I'm allowed to come first. I'm allowed to decide this is what I want for me, and I don't care what anybody thinks. And I'm not going to say it's easy to get to that point where you can take those actions. It's going to take some work. But if you can start telling yourself that, even just I'm allowed to come first. It is not selfish. I am allowed to come first. I am worthy to come first. And the only person in the whole planet who's going to put me first is me. And every person deserves to come first. But the only person who can really do that is yourself. Because your husband's not going to put you first. Obviously, your kids aren't either.
mhm.
So it's time to take your power back and say, I come first.
Oh,
I
sounds
know.
good.
It's big stuff, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. But that's the start to finding yourself because you're never going to find yourself and find this wonderful woman and what is she like? What is she not like? What makes her happy if you're constantly putting other people first? It starts with putting you first, and you're allowed to do it.
Yeah, I know.
I'm giving
I
you
know she's in
permission.
there somewhere.
You have a certified stamp, boom, of
Okay.
you're allowed to come first. Michelle has given you permission.
All right.
So, how does that feel?
Feels good if I let it in and if I halfway believe it.
Yeah, just start. That's a practice, right? Like, okay, every day I'm going to wake up and maybe you put a note by your bed and it says, I'm allowed to come first. And you sit there and you go, yes, I'm allowed to come first. What little thing can I do today? What small, tiny thing can I do today to put myself first? And maybe it's taking a bath or going for a walk or meditation or whatever, calling a friend. You can do tiny things to start building. It's going to take time. This isn't an overnight thing, right?
All right.
But I know you can do it. I got so much faith in you.
Thank you. I'm trying to write all this stuff down.
Oh,
So.
yeah. Well, and you know, you can message me and I'll remind you. And this is recorded, so you can watch it again.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'll send you the
Awesome.
link.
Oh, wow. Great. Okay. Thank you.
You are so welcome, and I'm sending you so much love. And um, I'm I'm thinking our next caller is probably on the line, so I'm gonna let you go and get
Okay.
to that one. But I really appreciate you calling, and I hope that this was helpful. And feel free to shoot me a message or whatever, and we'll hopefully talk soon.
It's very helpful. Thank you, Michelle.
You are welcome so much. Sending you so much love. I'm sending you a hug.
Back at you. Thank you.
You're
All right.
welcome. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
sweetie. Bye. Hello there.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
Good. I can barely hear you. Are you able to speak up a little bit?
I'm in headphones. Let me see if I can change that.
Yeah, that was a little better.
Hello?
Yeah, that's a little bit better.
Okay.
How are you? Yeah, I know we are. I was just telling people that we had kind of chatted for a minute and we were possibly going to be looking at mother wounds.
Yes.
Yes. So tell me a little, and I would say, let's talk about the relationship you have with your mom currently.
There is no relationship. There is no contact for safety reasons.
Okay, which is valid.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So tell me about how the wounds you have from her are affecting you today.
They pop up like daily, and they show themselves in my closest relationships.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense, like the family relationships I've
Sure.
made,
So tell me a little
and
bit
they
about
show up
what's happening. Tell me more.
just like how it affected my self confidence and my self image, and also like how how my internal monologue is towards myself, if that makes sense.
Okay, I love that. We can totally work
Yes,
with that, right?
yes. Because
Um,
how we speak to our kids is how they end up hearing in their own conscious, in their own brain.
oh yeah, it's like we have that
Yeah.
little inner mom critic, you know,
Yes.
telling us that we suck or whatever, right?
Yes.
And we can definitely work with that part. When those thoughts are coming up, do you notice it's her?
A lot of the times it's in her voice,
Mm,
which is weird, but like I can literally hear it in her voice. And it's still shocking to this day, if that makes sense, because it's still just it's a trigger. Like
yeah,
it's a lot. Um, and a lot of it is just speaking down to me that I am dumb, that I'm not intelligent, and that is the least that is the least far from the case. Like that is the least from true.
yeah,
And it's just like I had to figure that out for myself, that I was intelligent, and I have to constantly remind myself that I am.
yeah. And that's, part of the process is when those thoughts come up is to go, no, mom, you're wrong. I am smart. I am worthy. I am good enough.
I am enough.
Yeah, right. Like I was just telling the previous caller, like sometimes because of how our subconscious takes things in, sometimes writing those things on our mirror is like a super effective way to start getting into that subconscious.
Yeah.
But there's obviously a lot of layers to this because obviously, when we're traumatized to,
Yeah.
the level that you are, there's layers of healing. And I know you have a counselor, which is amazing. That's so good that you're working with someone.
Yeah. We were speaking about this earlier.
Yeah, which is great, right? Like, and I think
Yes.
sometimes when we're healing, it's like, so there's a book on complex PTSD that I was reading, and he talks about like the layers of healing that need to happen when we have complex PTSD. It's not just getting
Yes.
counseling. It's not just doing somatic work. It's not just working with the subconscious. It's like we need all of these different things because it
It's
is
a regiment
complex.
of layers. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's like these layers, right? So, um, working with your thoughts is, paramount. Do you practice mindfulness?
I work with affirmations and like meditating with stones and yeah, I'm trying to think of like tea meditation is another mindfulness I like to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like just focusing on like the senses, like what are you sensing now? What are you smelling? What are you tasting?
Yeah.
What are you bringing in?
Yeah.
So those are 3 ways that I practice mindfulness.
Awesome. I love it. That's great. And there's,
Affirmations have really helped as well.
yeah, affirmations are great, and one thing that you can do, and this is something that I teach a lot of my clients, is what I call the loop, or what Marissa Peer calls the looping thoughts ladder. So I'm going to teach you this. And let's work with some actual thoughts that you have. So what is a thought that comes in a lot?
Oh,
Let's work with the you're
what
not
I was
smart,
told a
right?
lot that yeah, that I'm not smart, that I am crazy, I'm not disabled, that I have nothing wrong with me.
Yeah.
Just
So let's go with
basically
the
all that was just kind of pushed to the side.
yeah. Well, let's go with the like I'm not smart. Like that's a one of the mean thoughts that comes in, right?
Mhm.
And when that thought comes in, how does that make you feel?
Sad, but also numb, and it's also there a lot, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
sure. So when you're sad and numb and that thought's coming up a lot, what actions are you taking or not taking?
Um, letting it go, or if it gets triggered by like another, me not knowing something in a conversation,
Mm,
that's the way it gets triggered,
okay,
and I feel like I have to overcompensate and
right.
know the thing because I don't have to know everything.
Right? Yeah. So what the looping thoughts ladder does, so it's like we have our thought is creating our feeling, which is creating our action. So we kind of just worked through that with that I'm not smart, right?
Yeah.
What could you change the thought to instead of I'm not smart? When that thought comes up, what could you change that to quickly? It doesn't have to be like a huge swing either. But what would
You
feel
don't have
better?
to know everything.
Okay, yeah. So if you think I don't have to know everything, how does
Yeah.
that feel?
It feels better and it feels like freeing.
Freeing is great, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So when you're feeling better and free, what do you think, what actions or, what action or non-action would you then take because you were feeling better and free?
To do something I would enjoy, I would imagine that would like open me up to be happier.
Yeah.
I feel like,
Yeah.
and
So,
not as hard or critical on myself.
right? Like I can love myself. I can give myself grace.
Yes,
Because like,
that's a big one. Is
right? Like
giving
I
myself
give
grace.
myself grace. I don't need to know everything. No one knows everything. Even all these stupid AIs they're forcing on us don't know everything.
Right.
Right? And if they don't know everything, like I'm a human, I don't need to know everything, and I don't know everything, and that's fine. So if you can imagine the ladder, anytime those mean thoughts are coming up, if you can imagine that ladder giving you that you know opportunity to change that first thought, which is going to then change how you feel and it's going to change what you do. How does it feel to like think about practicing that as like you could even think of it as a mindfulness sort of exercise?
It feels better.
Yeah. Like honestly, and you could just I mean, I know you're an artist. Draw yourself a ladder
Mm,
or make a ladder. I know you're so creative, right?
yeah,
Like make a ladder and be like, "Yes, I'm going to make this ladder to remind me that when that thought comes up, I'm going to use this looping thoughts ladder to change my momentum." Because what happens is our mind wants to give us what we want. And the way it knows what we want is by our thoughts. So when a thought comes up like, I don't know anything, and it makes you feel bad, your mind's like, oh, okay, she wants to feel bad. I'm going to give her more of that because your mind isn't judging the thoughts or the feelings. They just
yeah,
are, right? So we
yeah,
have to mindfully change the momentum of our thoughts. And I will tell you, this is not always easy. I struggle with this
no,
too. Okay. So, like, and that's where giving ourselves grace is so important and giving ourselves forgiveness. And that's another conversation we can have briefly. Have you worked on any sort of forgiveness for yourself or for your mom?
I'm working on self-forgiveness and just reminding myself that I did the best I could in that moment where I was in moments that I feel shame. Because shame is I am bad and guilt is I did bad.
Right.
And so I'm trying to change that shame because that shame doesn't need to be there.
Yeah. I mean, remind yourself I'm human. I'm here to make mistakes. I'm here to grow. This is part of my growing process.
Yeah.
What other thoughts around that would feel good?
Um, you did the best you could at the time. You did the best you could as a child in a really bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you were a good kid and you're a good adult. So just trying to uplift and not stay in the shame.
Yeah, right. And even
Yeah.
noticing, okay, I'm feeling shame right now. This is just my ego messing with me. Because the ego loves guilt and shame, you know? So it's like,
Yeah.
all right, I know this is just my ego loves guilt and shame. It's not true. I am
Well,
worthy.
and also, yeah, thank you. Also, letting myself make mistakes and not make a big deal out of it because
Sure.
they were made big deals when they shouldn't have been. They should have just been
Exactly.
let go.
Like even telling yourself, okay, this is just this pattern of, uh, you know, my, this is just like my mom pattern of being shamed for making a mistake. And I don't need, I can let this go. I can let go of the stories that my mom told me about myself.
Because it was wrong.
Right.
It was absolutely wrong.
Yeah, and maybe she was doing her best and her best was terrible. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So like, okay, my mom was doing her best and it was crap. And I just need to let go of everything she taught me about myself and even the world probably,
Yes.
right?
Because,
And we can't
yeah, no,
erase
it
her
was
from your
absolutely
memory.
wrong.
But, the
Yeah.
practice of going, "Oh, I'm noticing this is my mom talking to me. I'm and I don't need that." And especially since you hear it in her voice,
Yes.
that's actually helpful to you.
Well, if I learned anything from her, it's how not to be.
Right.
Like I learned like a great example of how not to be a person, how not to be a mom, how not to be a wife. Like I learned how not to be from
Yeah.
her.
Do you think, this will sound weird, do you think you can have gratitude for what she taught you? And it's okay if you can't. I'm just challenging you.
It came at such a high cost.
Yeah. But can you choose to see it as something to be grateful for? Because now you know so much better.
Yes.
How does it feel to think of it in a different way?
Well, I've been trying to see it as in like trying to be grateful that that part of my life was bad because I feel like my life is so much better and blessed now. Now that I'm an adult, like I kind of traded my childhood for a good adulthood.
Yeah, and before you got on, I was talking about like the extremes. Like we don't know love without hate. You know, if we don't know
Yes.
hatred, right? And so you're, and you know, I believe like our souls chose who our parents were, what experiences we wanted to have. Like we chose our parents for the experiences we had at the soul level because we want to experience joy and love and happiness. We have to experience the opposite.
I learned what true evil in the world looks like
There you
through
go.
her.
Right? So you could experience now, you know what it's like to experience all being a great loving mom. And everything else that you are, being a great friend.
Because I have a template of what not to do.
Right. And what you have to realize though is that our subconscious is like a computer hard drive. And it has all these programs. And these programs, for the most of them, are really loaded by the time we're 7. So everything that happens to us up until we're 7 becomes these programs in our subconscious. And obviously, your mom gave you a lot of programs that weren't so kind to yourself.
No.
So, what you can do is kind of imagine, okay, this is just that program coming up. So, when you're with, let's say you're with friends or you're with your partner or whatever, even with your kid, doesn't matter. You can, let's say that, you know, because the smart thing, since you mentioned that. So let's say something happens and you get triggered, because the triggers are never going to end, unfortunately. We just get better at seeing what they are
At
and
handling it.
handling them better, like quick. You can handle it in seconds. So you get better and better, and you can just be like, oh, there's that program. I'm noticing that's that program. And I'm going to breathe. Because what happens is when we have complex PTSD, we don't have flashbacks like a PTSD where we go to that, you know, car bombing, but we have these emotional flashbacks. And when we're having those emotional flashbacks, our nervous system gets triggered as if the thing was happening right now.
Yeah.
So even though we're not being yelled at by our mom, whatever happened triggered, and we aren't, you know, hearing it or whatever necessarily, but our nervous system thinks it's happening. And our nervous system's like, ah, and we go into that fight or flight or freeze or whatever. So noticing that's what's happening is key to changing the momentum quickly. So we can say, oh, my nervous system's triggered. It's just that program that my mom said I wasn't smart. And I can breathe. And I'm sure you know this, like, but just for the listeners, I'll say, you know, when when you're breathing in, your heart rate's going up, and when you breathe out, your heart rate's slowing down. So the longer you breathe out, the more your heart rate's going to slow down, and that's going to help calm your nervous system. So you can do some simple breathing. Breathe in for 4 and out for 6, or whatever feels comfortable. Just breathe out longer than you breathe in, and that can help calm your nervous
That makes
system.
sense.
Yeah, right? It's the vagus nerve stuff, right? So like
Yeah.
breathing exercise, and then also just noticing this is what's happening. Even just acknowledging, oh, okay, this is what's happening, not getting into like a place of judgment, just like, oh, okay, this is
Yeah.
what's happening. I'm going to calm my nervous system down. I'm going to tell myself I am safe, I am secure, nothing's wrong, everything's fine, and like calm that little girl inside. And the breathing exercises can help with that. But even just put your hand on your heart and just breathe and tell yourself you're safe. Tell yourself you're secure. I am loved. I am smart. This is just that program. It's okay. And don't make it wrong. And unfortunately, we are running out of time, which I warned you we probably would. But does
Thank
that,
you so much, though. I appreciate it greatly.
yeah, does that help?
It does.
Okay, good. I'm really glad. That makes me happy. And you can message me anytime and I'll help you any way I can, okay?
Will do. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'll talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.